Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Quality Hour. We're broadcasting from the TCS network. It is myself, Joe Biskiner. Jim Welsh is here with me today.
Hi.
I've got John Flanagan in the studio today.
Hello, guys.
Greg Kava, Jerry Rudolph, and Kurt Sherman are in, man in the back screen, so we're going to get going today. Always want to remind you that if you have any questions or any comments, you can type them in, and Greg will grab our attention so that we can get to those questions. Jim, we've got a couple new agents in the system that we need to welcome. A&H Moving Services down in Clearwater, Florida, and Albert Moving and Storage in Wichita Falls, Texas, has signed on, and they're going to book business into the system. So there'll be a booking agent for us out there in Wichita Falls, Texas.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great organizations.
Normally I'd ask your booming voice to take care of this one, buddy, but I know
Yes.
that you're a little under the weather today.
Yes.
So bear with us. Jim is only going to speak 90% of the time.
Not when I'm spoken to?
Yes.
Okay.
Would like to read from a note from a pleased customer. This is This is regarding my decision to use Stevens as my mover when moving from Howell, Michigan to Delaware, Ohio. While Stevens was by far not the cheapest in rates, they were the most businesslike. Like my daughter stated, you don't want a jerk handling your stuff. Everyone had a caring, informative attitude from the salesman Doug Damaris to the packing crew of Mike and assistants Eric and Darren. While my load consisted of mostly boxes instead of furniture, it was given the same priority as well as their concern over me. The move was an emotional one, with lots of mixed feelings, and coming down with a bug didn't help. The truck crew of Eric, Darren, and Brandon were very businesslike, polite, prompt, and exercised a good work ethic. Stevens can be proud of having such businesslike employees, presenting customers with a very positive experience and doing a great PR job to the world. I'd recommend Stevens for anyone moving. Signed, Jerry Krisenberry. Well, I'd like to personally thank Doug, Mike, Eric, Darren, and Brandon for their assistance in satisfying yet another Stevens customer. As we continue to embrace the accountability process, Jim, we see more and more satisfied customers reaching out to tell us what a great service we provide, and it's always a pleasure to hear from our customers.
It's great feedback to pass along to everyone. Oh, here we go. The Packing Boot Camp this year. Great event that filled up real well for us. We have a great turnout from a number of our agents as well as the actual number of participants. That's set for next Thursday and Friday right here in Bay City, Michigan. Great feedback from last year. A lot of people calling, looking forward to coming in and visit early. So great event.
Sorry if you didn't get an opportunity to sign up. I hope that you will think about it for next year already this year. We will be taking advanced copy orders for the DVDs that will be produced for that day.
Right.
So there's always an opportunity to learn from that event.
You know, I'll have one comment for you in this. Some of our agents have asked, hey, if I've got a driver that's within driving distance and he can drive over on Friday, if he can participate on Saturday, and most definitely so. So don't hesitate to do that. I don't know if we can still get him a room at this late date, but we'll figure out some place for your driver to put his head down.
You got a
tonight.
nice place.
Yeah, right.
If your driver can get over Friday afternoon, okay,
right.
Well, that's always an option as well. So if he's delivering late Thursday or into Friday morning and wants to do it when we do our employee runs on Friday afternoon, we'd be happy to have him. So the more people that get an opportunity to see this, the better off we're all going to be. So you're always welcomed. We'll take any last-minute participants we get.
You know, and our QC delivery reports came out. Lo and behold, what are we seeing an improvement in, Joe?
Packing.
Oh, my goodness gracious, yes. It's amazing when you start not just talking about it, but...
when a plan comes together. Well, Jim, you know, there's a lot of issues in this business. One of the issues this summer is not going to be volume. So, you know, that's the worst issue if you have and say, okay, where's the volume going to be? Well, this summer, volume is not going to be an issue. So I draw your attention to the chart that's up on the screen right now. We don't have to go through every product line by product line. Look at that totals line down at the bottom. For the next 45 days this year, we've got 619 orders registered compared to 458 last year that loads in the next 45 days. So that's, by my estimation and the screens printing, 35.2% increase in business, and the similar increase in business from our hauler of choice partners. So the issues this year are going to be making sure that we have happy service providers in the home and continue to do a quality job for our customers, because it won't be a business issue for us. So there's business.
Yeah, and I think an important factor, Joe, is that number is very much quality driven. So as our quality has improved, our shipment count and business opportunities have improved. So our military scores have improved drastically, and as well as our other product lines. So the quality of our work is directly related to that 35% increase.
And it's easy for me to sit here and say to just do this, but again, I want to remind everybody that's listening, if you have the opportunity, try to gently nudge your customer to sign sooner rather than later, because again, capacity is at a premium not only for Stevens but for the entire industry. So you don't want to leave a disappointed customer out of the loop. So be out there aggressively prodding them into signing that order for service and getting them on the books here so that we can plan our best and make sure that they come up without a hitch. Turning to the pricing, this is probably going to be the last of these that you see based on our winter pricing, because now you're going to start seeing more shipments that are coming through based on our summer pricing, which we'll be bringing up in just a minute. But again, it shows that overall pricing is holding pretty good in compared to our guidelines. So we bump up a little bit in the smaller weight categories, and this month we've had a little bit more volatility in some of the zones, but overall we're really right at what the pricing guidelines have dictated. Speaking of those pricing guidelines, a reminder that they went out in a bulletin, and I believe that our agents were also contacted by one of our CAD team members just to remind them to look for those. But again, just wanted to put a snapshot on the screen of what our pricing is going to look like. That top level in the non-peak periods is 68% for the larger shipments and 60% for the smaller shipments. We have this year, because of the fact that there's going to be so much business, we've already dictated what one of our pricing periods is going to be. So we've got prime pricing in effect for the period of any shipment that's loading between June 17th and July 10th.
Right.
So not only affects the pricing, but during that period we'll also have a 2,500-pound weight minimum that's in effect. So make sure that if you haven't seen the entire pricing guideline, that you look for it either in the bulletin or go to SCL Online and you're able to pull down that pricing guideline. So don't be caught losing share points on shipments because you haven't seen the pricing guidelines for this summer.
Joe, I think too that in our May TCS Quality Hour we'll have a much greater handle on the volume that's booked. So we'll probably be discussing our strategies going forward from that point in terms of bookings.
Yeah.
So
going into effect here shortly in middle of May, I think May 15th is our target date, and you'll see something coming from our marketing department, and Jerry's going to be taking some serious notes here because there'll be an opportunity for the marketing department that they may not have had on their priorities list, but we have issued a new valuation table. In the past, we've allowed our agents to discount valuation the same as the bottom line. We are rescinding that practice, but while doing so, we have repriced our valuation charge so that it is still very competitive in the marketplace. You should not lose any sales based on the valuation and compared to the competitors. We are very aggressively priced on valuation to give our customers more options. We've added 2 deductible levels, a $750 and a $1,000 deductible, and still made it a very attractive price point for our customers so that they have many places to land for the valuation levels that they would like to receive from us. So you should be looking again forward to seeing some pieces that will come from marketing that will help your salespeople position this in the marketplace and provide more opportunities for them to close sales, as well as how it will be implemented within the Stevens tariff and the TechMate devices. So we'll see that coming soon. Our effective date on that one is targeted for May 15th. We expect it to be fully implemented by June 1st. I wanted to provide our audience with some results of our first quarter for 2011. That first quarter finished pretty strong for long distance moves, about 100 more shipments, just a little bit more weight, but you can see the leading indicators there were the contract sales, consumer sales target very strong, and DP3 is very strong compared to the combination of DP3 and old program DoD from last year. So if the first quarter is any indication of what the peak period is going to be like and the rest of the year is going to be like, it is going to be a busy season.
Right. We also noticed there the military is registering a lot of shipments for June, so they're trying to get ahead of the curve too.
And much like we anticipated, because of our quality scores going up in the military, it has improved our quartile rankings, and we're seeing business much faster in the cycle and expect that to stay very strong. As it did in that first quarter, again, our first quarter results for DP3 business were very strong, much better than our projections had indicated that it would be. So we're seeing a very positive movement on the DP3. Again, gives us that confidence to know that this year volume will not be an issue for Stevens. Looking ahead, what do April and May look like? Again, tracking ahead. So our long distance moves are ahead of last year, driven right now by our relocation partners and again the DP3. And short haul, again, continues to track very well. So DP3 is really the leader in that service line for us, giving a lot of regional opportunities to our agents out in the field. Jim, why don't you take the TCS? I know that you know a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's in fact I had a tattoo the other day on that. But what's good about this is that if you take a look at what our scores are, and we tracked this back from March, look at March 08 on all shipments, 83.48, and we are at 91.30. So, you know, the joint accountability process has taken hold in our entire organization, and everyone needs to be proud of that. And again, this is why we're going to enjoy all sorts of business opportunities out there and hopefully pricing advantages. From a DoD standpoint, here again, it shows how everyone has bought into the TCS concept here. Our goal is 85, and we believe an 85 represents every bit of a 95 or better in our corporate and COD product lines. So when you look at the two programs combined, we were in 82.45 for March.
Mm-hmm. I want to point out that this is every one of these numbers up here is based on a 12-month run. Okay.
Correct.
And take a look at that DP3 question 9, 40 points. That's the bottom in the yellow chart there on the far right-hand side. In March, we achieved 52.8% of all of the customers are giving us that total 40 points on question 9. Okay, we told you, we promised you that Stevens would figure out this customer line and we would be the leader in this customer line. And this is the proof that we're getting there. So we're doing, we've got some amazing people doing some amazing things to satisfy this customer group, and the results are really starting to pay off.
Yeah, and obviously our international folks continue to do a great job down there, so they need to be congratulated.
62% are getting that total 40 points on question 9.
Yep.
This is a little bit alarming here, Jim. You got to help me out here, but I'm telling you, this is the first time since we started this show that I've brought up this chart, and Stevens' numbers haven't been better than the industry's. We've had a really weak first couple of months in our national account segment group. Much of it we understand why. but the industry is picking that up much faster and at a great rate, and we had a decline there. COD business for us is improved much better than the industry. Military has as well, and our hauler of choice is better, but our drop in the national account segment and the pickup of the industry in that national account segment show that the industry now in that first 2 months had a 12.7% increase in shipment count, and Stevens only had a 10%. Okay, so we don't like being beat by the industry, so get out there and let's get moving and get some more business.
I will say, though, that a lot of our corporate people have signed some major accounts, and we are going to start seeing those bookings come in May and June through September. In fact, much of our embargo strategy and blackout strategies are being geared towards the influx of that business into our system. So great things have coming in the future with our corporate business.
Well, it's time to welcome our guest, John Flanagan. John, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Joe and Jim. Glad to be here.
We brought John into the studio as our expert in helping us with our strategy to respond to the market that is requiring that we have background-checked employees going into the homes of our customers. So we wanted to talk to you today and paint the picture for where we're moving in this program with what we are targeting as an implementation and full compliance date of January 1, 2012.
And it's important that we keep an eye on that goal. It is a big project, but it is eminently doable, and it's also very important.
Yes, and I think that as we go through this, we're going to see that we're a lot further along than we thought we were, and we can be very proud of our partners and what they've done. So let's just talk right now about some reasons for doing background checks.
Well, we have repeated requests from all over to have everyone that affects the servicing of an order at either origin or destination, anyone interacting the customer, for safety's sake, we want to make sure those people are background checked and their backgrounds are evaluated for possible past criminal activities. We don't want to put customers at risk, putting someone that shouldn't be in their home. And this comes from both individual customers and national accounts. And now, recently, we've been notified by some of the big relocation companies that this is going to be a stipulation to be a continuing service provider for those big, major employee relocation management firms. Also, our marketing department, Jerry and company, get RFPs all the time, and this is becoming an increasingly common, almost routine question. Tell us about your background checks. Those of you who service military bases, we've already seen at the base entry that background checks are actually done at the base gates upon entry. And if a driver or helper's background does not pass muster, they will be refused admittance to the base. So you want to make sure that the people you're sending do have the appropriate backgrounds done on them to make sure we're not sending the wrong people out there. And I think common sense, Joe, it's the right thing to do.
It is the right thing to do. And I think that we can feel comfortable in that when we polled many of our larger agents, we're already doing this. So now it's just a matter of packaging it together, okay, making sure that we hold accountable those members of our agency family that aren't doing it, give them a program that helps them to get there, and then track it, because what our customers are asking for is, you've told me this all along. Well, now I just want to make sure that you've got the proof available so that if my customer asks for it, then I can go to you and you'll have that proof for it. So just, you say you're doing it, we know we're doing it. Let's just package it together, create the metrics, and be able to then market it out to our customer group.
All right. For Stevens Prime Agent, it is going to be a condition of the contract, and a requirement for preferred packer, which I'm sure is a valuable incentive to many of our agents. For DP3, this will give you a preference for agency selection, where those that have complied with the program will rise to the top of the list when it comes to selecting OAs and DAs.
And again, on DP3, this one's so easy because you can't get onto the base if you don't have a background check.
That's correct.
So we're just, again, tagging on to what the requirements of the government already are and implementing it in our program so that, again, it gives our agents one more leg up, not only being able to market for our services and our shipments, but to be able to go out to the rest of the DP3 community and market themselves as being that service provider of choice.
Right.
Hey, John, is it the TWIC card?
That is one of the background check programs, yes.
Right. For the military, they accept that?
It is not universally accepted at the bases, but if you pass TWIC compliance, you would certainly be admitted to most government installations.
Right, and that is a background check that's good for
5 years, yes.
And the cost of that is?
About $135.
So where would our agents go to have that done?
There is a website which any state that has a port has locations where you can go on the TWIC website, and I'll have to get the link to the website out there. It is a 4-step process to get that. While it's encouraged, we're not requiring TWIC at this time, but it is. I think it's helpful. It was a generally accepted method of background identification, but it can be used in some places, but it's not universally accepted just yet.
Yeah, and I do want to caution our listening audience that, again, while there's one method of obtaining a background check, we're not by any means telling you that if you have that, everybody that's got one will be able to get on the base. We've seen cases where somebody might have the TWIC card and they still weren't allowed to get on the base.
Right.
So until SDDC and the services come together on what is acceptable for them, we don't want to tell you to do one program over another. We're going to talk about several ways and several types of background checks that will, again, help you to have the confidence that the people we're putting into our customers' homes have the necessary credentials.
And that's the important part, is we just don't want to let unsafe people into a residence that we shouldn't have let in the first place. For national accounts, the national account contracts no doubt will make that a requirement. For, if they haven't already, certainly anything new coming down the pipe will make this a requirement for servicing their orders. For our PVO, all of our driver candidates, no matter who they work for, they are going to be required to have this as a contract condition. For our labor services, for labor services we're going to be working with, we'll have to have a background check program in order to get a preferred vendor status. And we are working with those labor services right now to make sure that we have the appropriate credentials from them and the appropriate assurances that this is actually being done. And for non-Stevens agents, it would give them a preference for use over someone that did not have the background check credential.
And again, now just so that our agents understand, Stevens runs agencies as well. So we've got company-owned stores, and they face the same battles that our agent family has out there in terms of finding people that will be qualifiable under these things. So, here's what we do right now. Certainly, we require that all of our PVOs and our permanent helpers that ride with those PVOs have a background check. We don't care whether they're running directly for the van lines or if they are running through one of our agents. That's our policy. It's been our insurance carrier's policy, and there are portions of the DOT requirement that are in there. So that part's pretty easy for all of us. Okay, we've run background checks on all Stevens personnel, any new hire in the organization, regardless of their position, since about August of 2008. So again, that's a policy that we've just been saying because it's good business practice to have that background check. All of our local contractors, so if we have one of our moving and storage companies that utilize local contractors, all of the contractors which would fall under the PVO guideline are background checked, as well as any of their employees that have to be qualified.
And we have pretty much 100% compliance at the local locations for that.
And like many of you out there, one of the gaps that we have currently is that we did not go back and background check all of our salespeople, okay, even though they're the first people that we send into the house, okay? So we haven't closed that gap, and we know that you probably haven't closed that gap yet either. But again, as we move forward, we'll close that gap because it's important to us. It's the right thing to do.
Steve Brennan passed a note on to us here, Joe and John, that he has a driver that has a tweak car, and he says in this particular case it really speeds up his access to the base. So it's good to hear that that has the ability to be able to do that.
In some locations, again, we're waiting for universal acceptance on that. But and when SDDC makes the move, then we'll certainly be on top of that. Currently, if you have a company-owned agent, qualified van employees, helper or driver, they're going to get the same background checks as a Category 1 employee or a driver, except if they don't have a driving responsibility, we don't run the DOT or MVR history if they don't have driving responsibilities. Our contract employees, we do an electronic background check, also known as an e-background. It's fairly quick, it's a little bit less expensive, and it gives us the background information that we need to make a rational decision as to whether that person is eligible for work. And it does include a both civil and criminal record check, a 2-county and state as well as a Social Security verification to make sure that person is who they say they are. All qualified PVOs, including agent drivers, have the full background. This is currently going on.
Yeah, this is based on a survey that we did of our larger agents. This is the results that we feedback from that of what our agents currently are doing. So,
yes, and the many agents are already background checking. They're moving personnel, their helpers, also the warehouse people, and other personnel who actually enter the customer's home. Anyone who has interaction with the customer. We, as Joe mentioned, we do have probably a gap in checking sales personnel at various locations, and that's something we can work on, and I think that's eminently solvable in a fairly short period of time. About 90% of the AAC members who are polled are about 90% compliance with our proposed policy. So we're well on the way to getting this done. This is not a mountain that we can't climb.
Right, and in that 90%, that 10% gap is primarily on salespeople. Now, interestingly enough, we've had other van lines that have come to our company-owned stores looking to find a salesperson that would go out and do an in-house survey for some of their business, and that was they asked for their certification of the background check. So again, having this is going to provide you opportunity and provide your salespeople opportunity, provide your drivers opportunity. I mean, the last thing you need is to be held up because somebody doesn't have a background check. So it seems like a lot of work up front, but it'll save so much time in the long run.
The background check is going to become just like a CDL.
It's going to become it is actually the norm. If you want to look at our competition, they started this about three and a half years ago, and some of it uses as a strong marketing tool in their arsenal of advertising materials that tells all their customers that all their people have the full background checks, whether they're helpers, drivers, or anybody else involved in the move. Now, what are some of the resources that are available that you can use or that we're using ourselves? And 3 of the big players are LexisNexis, HireRight, and Raymond Investigative Services, formerly known as Kirby Bailey. Raymond is a very good company. We've been using them for about 15 plus years in their current, with the continuation having been acquired by the Raymond Company, and they do a very thorough job. What we're looking for is a criminal history with county and state. All the states are on different databases, so the background checking company has to be cognizant of that, know where to look and what to look for. We're going to look at, in the case of a driver, we're going to be looking at, as required by DOT, their employee safety history, including drug and alcohol violations, which is something that's not generally available through ordinary means. Employment verification, Social Security number verification, as previously mentioned, are also important checks to make sure you're dealing with the person that you think you're dealing with. And we do have actually proposals in from all 3 of these companies right now who are trying to get our business and are anxious to be of service to Stevens Van Lines and their agent and our agent family.
And our evaluation process is to try to find the best one that fits our agency family, makes it easy for them to use, gets us the information that we want without a lot of background administrative labor. Okay, so
I'm sorry, Joe. If I was an agent out there and I said, "Well, how do I go about the process here? How can the van line help me and point me in the right direction?" Certainly, we would suggest that you can give myself a call, Greg, John Flanagan a call, someone in our commercial agency division, and we will certainly sit down with you and point you in the right direction and give you all the process required to get that. So don't hesitate to give us a call.
Thank you, sir.
There was a question here from Steve, and Steve Grinnan, about quick background checks. Actually, all three of those service providers can do what they call an instant federal screening, which is your national criminal database. That can be done online fairly quickly. As part of, if we are contracted with that service provider, they can get you that. Of course, that's not the full background check, but they can give you a written document that said the person has been screened against the National Criminal Database. Again, that does not include county court searches and so forth that the rest of the background check would take. Someone might wonder, how long do these electronic checks take? Typically, not less than 1 day, and typically not longer than 3 days. So the turnaround is pretty prompt. So if you're going to use that employee for any length of time, 1 to 3 days, you should be able to get it done and have it in your possession with the results sent to you and to Stevens, so we know that we're using the right people.
Yeah. So if that person you did that background check on passes it, are they issued some type of number or ID number?
They were issued a document. A document said the person is eligible for employment. It's eligible. In other words, they passed.
So how would that individual use that to get on a base? Or how would we communicate that information to a third-party company that says, I want to know, do you have 3 qualified background check individuals for my customer on Thursday, and the rule is that we must give them the proper numbers of those employees.
There is a reference number provided by the service providers that said this person's background check number is, and they will provide the number, and that person is eligible for employment.
And with these national programs, we've identified in our systems how we're going to track and keep track of. So depending on what one of these national campaigns that we use and whatever they give, okay, some of them it's simply a certification or a document that says they passed. Some do issue a registration number that was the Nexus number or the Hire Right number. I'm not sure that the Raymond Group does the same thing, but they all have a numbering system that we'll store on our files along with the employee's name and critical information, so that when we are assigning work, we can go out to the agent and say, okay, I need 3 employees. I need background checked employees. Who do you have? We'll be able to pull up on the screen that the names that they give us match that the names are in the screen. So.
Yeah. In some of our pre-planning on this show, we talked about how Stevens will, if you send us the proper information and a photo of the employee, we will make a photo ID for that employee so that they have that on their persons to wear in the home and what have you. So we'll get that information back out to the agent family. Very important. Very important.
There's a new program that was announced, Joe, was it like a week and a half ago maybe or so?
Well, this was a result of the AMSA convention early March in Jacksonville, Florida. AMSA did a great job at reaching out to the independent movers in the association to talk about a registered American Mover program, so that they could create a database of registered movers and a database there for getting labor. So,
right.
I mean, the industry is really taking this to heart and providing a value-added service for their members, which is why it is important for all of our agents to be AMSA members, by the way, because that organization is doing the things that are going to help you and the industry. But, so we're talking about how do we create a national database within AMSA that identifies those agents that have labor or those laborers that are out there, so that anybody in the association that is required and needs labor someplace can pull up this national registry and reach out to people who have the certification. Right. I mean, it's a great idea.
Would this be, are they looking at this being part of the Pro Mover program?
Jim, I believe that this is a separate program from the ProMover program, okay?
Right.
So this may not necessarily be just moving companies that are in this program. So the ProMover is one designation, but this is the individual designation, not at the agency level, but at the individual employee level.
And AMSA is, Dave Holstein, I believe, is championing this, and he is taking comments and soliciting input from the Safety Committee, from the Legal Affairs Committee, and several of the other AMSA committees who all have a stake in making sure that there are available, qualified, and background screen help available all over the country, because especially if you're going into an unfamiliar area or area where you don't have representation, you want to be able to get good help, because we really don't want to put our customer at risk by putting the wrong person in their home.
Yeah, in the past, our industry has not done the best job at marketing what an honorable profession moving and storage is. And this is a step that might just help to create an organized pool that gives people that certification and lets them put the tag on it as being an honorable profession. So this is no different than, you know, the electricians or any other provider where you can go and find, all right, I need somebody, there they are.
Right. It's a tremendous...
Great stuff. I mean, this is what the industry should be all about.
Right. It's a tremendous image builder, kind of dispel some of the myths of the past years.
Uh-oh, Greg's grabbing paper and pen. So that question's being answered. I'm just going to ask Jim to give us an update how Stevens is doing on our recruiting efforts to make sure that we've got the PVOs necessary to service the customers that we're going to have this summer.
Okay. Let's take the starting point. The last summer, around the middle of July, we had 145 PVOs out there. That was a combination between headquarters as well as our agent and permanent committed drivers. When we looked at our hauling plan and felt what we needed to be for 2011, we said, let's go out and let's build that fleet up to 165. And so that's our goal, to have 165, 48 state long-distance PVOs out there between headquarters and our agent, perm, and committed. We are at the numbers today to where we need another 30 new PVOs in the system. Now, where can they come from? They can come directly from Stevens headquarters, recruiting them directly for HQ. Our agents, we have sent out a number of bulletins to your office and emails about putting committed drivers into the fleet, 48 state fleet. We will be signing, I believe, a few more agents before the peak season, so I know we have some drivers coming from them. We also have the dedicated fleet aspect of opportunity for our agents, and that's when you put in a unit out there that's under our sole care, custody, and control dispatch for May through then September. And keep in mind, there's a hauling bonus associated with that. So I believe it's, 3% over $60,000 of line haul that unit would haul that's not typically within your self-haul range of your location. So we're looking for a lot of ways to increase that fleet up to 165. We believe there's a lot of opportunity up there. Another day I was asked, what's our plan B if we don't get there? And I said, well, there is no plan B. So plan B just makes plan A a little weaker and gives you an excuse to fail. So we're not going to fail at that. So we are going to reach our goal of 165. So for those of you that would like to put a unit out there, give us a call. You can contact Greg or contact myself or Ken Spencer, and we'd be happy to sit down and talk to you about it. We have some trailers that we can probably get hooked back behind that fifth wheel of that unit for you to put a dedicated driver on. So give us a call. We believe that after this announcement that there will be a mad rush to put drivers in our fleet. So
yeah, we would appreciate it if you would identify those units early so that we know that we can plan on having that dedicated capacity. We know that there will be, that way we can mark it in the system right now, and then there won't be any issues when it comes time for you to earn your bonus money. So again, I don't know, Jim, if you've got a just an email that somebody needs to send you, or how you're going to track that, but we don't want anybody to miss the opportunity, and we certainly don't want to miss out on the capacity. So the earlier that we can identify those units that will be dedicated for that period of time, the happier we'll all be.
Yeah, and volume will not be an issue, so we think that there's a high degree of probability going to be able to earn those that incentive bonus for putting that unit out there. So give us a shout.
Boy, we've hit a great topic here, so I'm going to read some of these items, and might not be able to have an answer as we speak, understanding that, you know, this program's target date is January of 2012, and we certainly appreciate your asking these questions, because that gives us those obstacles that we'll have to overcome in order to implement. A question from Gary Becker says, when drivers need labor, every mover has a list of non-employees. Will this need to stop? Again, I don't think that we're trying to give you a false sense of security that everything that we've ever done in the past will stop, okay? We know that many of our accounts, the Department of Defense, and many of our customers are requiring that we can categorically claim that the people that we're putting in their homes have a background check. So how we will incorporate this list of non-employees and still allow them in the program, we have to figure that out. But, you know, it doesn't necessarily limit anybody from having that background check and being on your list.
Yeah,
they have to sign the same form. They have to have a background check.
The employee status, whether they're contract, casual, or on payroll, really doesn't matter. We can run a background check with a very simple form on anyone and have that on file in the event that 2 weeks from now or 6 weeks from now you need to call that person in to work for a couple of days. You've already got the background check on hand.
Well, we have agents out there that are doing background checks now on their non-employee labor, and
not an obstacle.
Specifically because they know that when our driver's coming in there delivering the base, he needs that type of help to get on the base. So many of our agents are already being proactive with that and getting those backgrounds.
But that's a good question.
Yeah,
I know this.
Great question.
We can identify 99,999 people from each agency, so having enough room to identify, you know, the class can be very large. Right. I appreciate that question, though. Another question from Ruth Bernal. How far back are we checking? Misdemeanors, which count, how many? Ruth, again, great question. I don't think that we put all the parameters around what is the pass-fail. Many of those parameters have been defined for us either by a customer group or by our insurance company or the Department of Transportation. I know we've got some guidelines that we're going on.
We've been using the Vanliner guidelines for about the last 10 to 12 years. Those are published online in your policy and procedure manual. They're fairly straightforward, and they're fairly common sense. No felonies within the last 3 years, no violent felonies, and more than one felony on your record. How far you go back is going to vary by the state of residence. Some states go back to the day you were born, such as Texas, where other states only go back 7 years. So that will vary from state to state, and there's nothing that the background checker can actually do about that. They're at the mercy of the state records people when they actually do the background check.
John, Clyde Gates asks, are county background checks through Sheriff Department okay, or will we have to go further? Also, you may not be able to answer this one. I'll chime in after that. Is also any program to help absorb the cost at the agency level. So,
on the sheriff checks are good to the extent they go, but they do not cover the National Criminal Database and typically do not include a sex offender search and so forth. Our electronic check would catch all of those things in one shot.
And certainly, Clyde, we are all sensitive to the fact that you know, absorbing the cost for this program is nothing that anyone looks forward to. and I can give you the easy answer of what's the cost if we don't do it rather than the cost it does. But again, rest assured that we are trying to identify the program that is the most beneficial and the most valued program without putting an undue economic burden. And we will give you helpful hints on ways to defray some of that cost, okay? Maybe there may be some opportunity for the van lines to do some of that, but also you could have a program where if you've got summer help coming in or even your permanent help, as a condition of employment, maybe they have to pay for their background check. So on a $40 background check, it's $10 a week. It's no different than somebody that's got to buy their uniforms or any other tools that they'd have to have for their job. This becomes a tool of the trade.
Yeah, you know, we have many agents out there that basically are requiring their casual help to be in uniform. So they have a uniform service, and that person gets their uniforms every week cleaned, and are also paying for their background check. So if you want to be a casual helper, even if you're a college student that wants to come work during the summer and work for the line haul driver, you know, there is a way to make that happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it is part of the requirement.
But we're going to work with you to make sure that we meet the requirements and don't break the bank. Any other questions, Greg? Greg's kind of worn down. He's been recruiting so many drivers. He's only got 30. By the end of the week, he promised us another 30.
Adam McMullen asked about guidelines, because Hire Right has guidelines established without we're moving, and they tell whether a driver has passed or failed.
We can tell our service providers to actually allow them to do what they call the adjudication, the pass-fail, when they run this by simply giving them a list. As I indicated earlier, we've been using the Vanliner guidelines because they're consistent and it allows us to be insured by the carrier. So we can be more strict than that. I don't think we could be less strict than that. So that being said, we can customize with the service provider, be it HireRight or LexisNexis or Raymond, a pass-fail, and have them actually tell you, just person passed, and they'll send you the results later, but this person is eligible to work or this person is not eligible to work, and why.
And we're right now evaluating many of the requests that we get in from our customer group. You know, many of our customers are saying, you have to do this. These are the things that we want you to check. This is the program that we want. We understand that there's going to be some shakeout on this as our customers come to grips with what is truly acceptable or not acceptable. And one of the reasons why we have decided to, work our way through this summer, come over some of the obstacles, and then when we get into the fall, really start publishing what those items will be, because we want to make sure that we've got an umbrella that is large enough that we satisfy the requirements of our customers, but not too constrictive that we can't have anybody pass the program. So, but we'll publish that well in advance. I was handed a sheet here with a question about the TWIC program. I'm going to talk slow, and hopefully you have a sharp pencil, because this is a long one. If you're interested in information about the TWIC program, the website is www.twicprogram. That's TWICprogram.tsa.dhs.gov. Once again, www.twicprogram, all one word, .tsa.dhs.gov. That's a mouthful. I thought StevensWorldwide.com was a long one. All right.
Well, our show next month will definitely cover our status in terms of our fleets, PVOs we have out there, where we have come in terms of recruiting and our agents' commitment for capacity, as well as I'm sure we'll be studying our volumes, our booking volumes, and potential prime periods going into the month of July. So very important for the attend, and any information further you would like us to to come across with in that show, feel free to give us a shout, and we'll be happy to include it.
Yeah, we'll be happy to customize next month's show. I mean, you see up on the board there, we talked about next month being no time to get ready, now is the time to perform. Okay, we spent the last few shows talking about how to get ready for this peak season. And here it is, it's upon us. So,
Yeah.
you know, we know that you're not going to have a lot of time, maybe not as much opportunity to get on the line. We're going to follow a similar format like we did last year, like we do at the beginning of each show this year. Talk about where the capacity's at, talk about where the volume's at. But again, if you have issues that are coming up that you want us to address, by all means, reach out to anyone in the organization, and they'll make sure that that topic gets to us, because it's important. You know, better educated is better armed. Is that how that goes, Jim? That probably doesn't make the whiteboard, does it?
No, that's not good, Joe.
I'm tired. I had a long night last night.
I know. It's been a rough 24 hours.
We had the Stevens Leadership meeting yesterday, which was a great meeting, handed out some TCS awards to some folks, and just had a great time prepping ourselves for this busy season. But it was a long, fun night.
Well, time to say goodbye.
I think it is. I want to thank everybody again for tuning in. We know your time is valuable, and we hope that we've added to that value for you today.